you've got all that content because of 20, 30, 40 years worth of career, and you're going, how do I organize it? How do I put it into some kind of shape so I can share it? And that's an important question to ask yourself, because you've got to find the clarity so that you have the confidence to be able to make the commitment and to demonstrate the courage to be able to then launch whatever it is that you have as you shape and share your legacy after 60. So one of the things that I have been working on is to assist adult educators, and that's in a wide swath of who you are in terms of what your experience is, to be able to organize that content, to figure out the framework, model, and steps, the map, the diagram, and the actions that go with it. I'm really great at that. That's something I'm quite known for. And what I've done is I've helped many a person do that, but I've also done, how do I project manage someone in writing their book, to editing books and making suggestions, to reading and providing reviews for persons along the way. And I've published 20 books myself, and I don't know how many articles, or I think it's somewhere around 300 workshops on 6 continents. So I've been engaged in sharing educational resources all around the world, lots of different topics, some of them associated with war and peace. Worked in a war zone. I have been involved with the pandemic in terms of education for the workplace. So I've touched bases in a lot of different ways. And I'm going to be sharing what I call the side of the desk, so to speak. Then my desk is here. I'm at the side of it. And I have some things I want to share with you, especially around the use of a transmedia approach when you're bringing your content, shaping, and sharing it forward. Hi, I'm Stephen. I'm a legacy mentor. I prefer the term legacent, and you'll learn more about that as time goes by. And it's great to have you here. So with this transmedia approach, it's actually a really great term to express you have media channels that you take out what it is that you have. And what I'm doing from a transmedia, which is across the different media, is figuring out the story and narrative that I want to get out there about legacy after 60. So I'm assisting, guiding, supporting adult educators to figure out their legacy after 60 stories in particular that then frame up their contributions and or projects. And by getting involved with that, I'm actually living my own legacy by doing that. So I have that wonderful opportunity to experience truly what it is that I am educating about and gaining the evidence so I can continue to improve, focus, and strengthen my own efforts and being with you. And if you've used transmedia, down below in the comments, let us know how did that go for you? What did you do? Or are you still in it? Or did you say, I'll give that and I'm going to give it up now? Let us know so we can learn together. Now, I have some notes, so I'll be checking in with those. But from this transmedia point of view, I'm linking it around. I have my anchor channel, which is YouTube for shorts and longs. And then I'm interacting with media.com, where you upload articles, and Substack, where you can upload articles, LinkedIn, where I publish a weekly newsletter, and then Pinterest, where I put my pins up to help draw attention to the different kinds of digital products that I have available, and my mentoring services that I offer as well. But I just wanted to give that background because there's some things I want to share with you that I think will be of assistance if you take up a transmedia, or you just take up maybe a couple of media channels. Maybe one is just YouTube and you might use LinkedIn, or you might go over into one of the social media channels, Instagram, X, Facebook, Blue Sky, any of those. I have stopped using all of those ones and just concentrating on the ones that I'm sharing here. So one of the first things I would share is that for years and years I heard content is king and other variations. Well, one of the things that I've come to appreciate, there's no kings, queens, princesses, or princes when it comes to this whole sharing of and shaping of stories. Content's important. I get that. But I think what's really more important is understanding the context that you are working in, the situation in which you're working, to bring your content forward through frameworks and models or maps and diagrams, depending on what you're working with. And then saying, okay, how do I get my content out there? So in one sense, I'm a content influencer, but I'm also a catalyst impactor, depending on how you look at it. Now, I'm more of a content influencer than a catalyst impactor. Now, that might vary as time goes by, but what would you be, a content influencer or a catalyst impactor? Be curious to know. Let us join you in what you're doing. Now, one aspect of my work history and contributions was around culture. And I've written quite a bit around that. I've done a lot of consulting work in culture. And culture for me is about human interactions and the artifacts that result from that. And therefore, as I'm doing my legacy work now, I'm noticing that I am influencing these communication, these get-togethers of persons, and looking at the artifacts that result from them. Now, that's stories, but also what kind of stories and where are they being shared? And as you figure out what your stories for contributions and projects are from a legacy perspective, perception, point of view that you're working with, you'll start to take a look at, you might actually be influencing culture and maybe to the point of impacting it quite a bit, or you might be assisting each person's context in terms of how they live their lives. So there's a lot to unpack in there, and as the videos come along, I'll be sharing more of that with you. But again, if you have this story of context and culture and you sorted it all out, or you have questions about it, put some links down below or suggest your comments, bring your questions to the foreground. That would be great. Another aspect of this whole shaping and sharing that I've certainly picked up on, and there's more persons in the YouTube world, there's lots of videos on this, are saying you got to be who you are and not put masks on. They'll use words like, you've got to be vulnerable, you got to show your authenticity. And I go, okay, that's true. And I would suggest that it's really important. And when you get into your legacy after 60 contributions and projects and the stories, and if you're using YouTube, it's true. You've got to be able to lean into who you are. So even for me, I have to think through this, and I've gone through just about every kind of way of looking at it, from putting my suit jackets back on and being here in the front of the video to chat about things, to I've adopted, for the most part, a no pants approach to life. Is if I don't have to wear pants, I'm not going to. And that is countered by, hey, it's starting to get cold where I am, so I put my pants back on for the winter. But for a good portion of the year, probably 8 months, I am wearing my shorts. But now, you don't see it, and that's okay. But in my own mind about who I am and how I feel comfortable and still willing to take risks in interacting with you, no pants approach has worked for me. And I tend to wear my hoodies, and yeah, I've got a beard and all those kind of things. And some days, that beard may look a little it sort of took off and had a mind of its own. But this is who I am. And I encourage you, if you're going to get into the world of videos, then shoot a bunch of videos and just get used to being there and then watching yourself and how might you improve what it is that you're doing. And so I would encourage you is, yes, be who you are, but you also got to figure out, does it at minimum link with the audience you want to get involved with? So for example, adult educators for me, well, my doctorate is on adult education and human performance improvement. So I have it from that angle, but I also have all those published books and book chapters and articles and courses. So I have quite an experience in adult education that I can bring to the foreground to conversations that we're having. In that same vein, if you're going to invite others into your presentations, it matters who they are and what they're bringing and how are they bringing themselves. So the same thing about, are they being truly who they are, or are they putting on some airs and graces and sort of, I don't know if I like that person when you watch them, or you sort of turn off and go away, you drop the whatever you're watching. So again, those that you bring forward, they have to line up with your audience, yes. But more important, there's got to be a connection between you and that person. Now, I've had some times where you can tell it's a little strained or a little weird in terms of the conversation that's going on. Other times, you can tell both of us are having a great time and really enjoying it. So really pay attention to who you're bringing in to what it is you're doing. And when you're thinking about the story and narrative across different kinds of channels, that becomes particularly important because you're bringing in a whole different roles of people, different storylines, different narrative creations, and you've got to figure out how to bring that all together. And that's a topic that I'm going to be putting into some weekend workshops, which are live and interactive, that you can certainly join. It's a course, 13-week course on stories that I'm creating. There'll be some challenges and some books and digital products that will be coming out on that topic. And if you're at all interested in it, you can go to the link down below and drop your email address in and just say, hey, listen, I'd like to learn a little bit more about the story work that you're going to be doing. And I'll certainly get back to you. Two more things that I figured out. Now, I don't often use adjectives in front of what it is that I'm doing. But for some reason, the word radical came to the foreground about being rooted in, as compared to being a pain. And radical legacy. I went, that's an interesting take. Radical legacy after 60. And that took me down some pathways that said, there's something here about how we then frame up our stories. How do we bring them to life? How do we give them some oomph? That's a real technical term. Give them some oomph. And I thought that it would be important for me to really get rooted in what it is that I'm doing, and therefore being a little bit more radical, getting out there and saying a little bit more, stepping out into that conversation that is necessary, especially for those of us who are 60 plus. I'm in my 70s now. But there's got to be someone stepping into dealing with that aging conversation that's happening. And why does a word like ageism have to feel as though it's being used as a stick against you when it actually has great meaning and is actually quite supportive? So I'm going to be exploring that, and I'll be offering some side of the desk thoughts on that and linking it maybe to something that you're working on. And we can maybe have a conversation and put it into one of the videos here, or bring it to one of the live calls. So let's see what happens. And the last insight that I shared today is that it's truly important to go and find out of what it is that you're working with. How do other people search for it? What questions are they asking about it? And it's more about the questions than it is just about the key word. So there's legacy, yes, but what is legacy? How do you plan your legacy after 60? What is a legacy after 60 conversation involve intergenerationally? What are the questions that go with that? It's really important that you figure out some of that before you really dive deep into what's going on. No matter what topic you're doing, crocheting, what does crocheting mean? Because there's a lot of people who might go, when in fact it's, whoa. Maybe there's what's gardening, but it's gardening that is for the area in which you find yourself. Gardening on the eastern slopes of the Rockies, which is different than gardening in a city in Pakistan. So again, thinking through the questions and what people might be looking for is going to be really important for you. And I had to learn that one is I have to keep going out. What's legacy linked to? What's legacy linked to? And I kept coming up against estate planning. It's a software term for old code. It has something to do with faith and faith decisions. And what are you going to do with your estate or with your money? And for me, the way legacy has been used has a reactive sense to it rather than a creative sense to it. So I'm attempting to figure out how to make that bridge of the people who are looking for the faith interpretations, the estate planning. How do I get them into what it is that I'm doing? If you have any thoughts on that, drop it down below, but also mull that over for yourself in terms of what does that look like? What does that feel like for you on the topic that you want to bring forward? One of my earlier videos, and I'll put a link down to it, talked about the mojo. And where I found my mojo again is this side of the desk videos. Because this is me. This is what I enjoy, bringing what am I learning along the way. Yes, I'm figuring out my legacy, but how do I help you with your legacy? There's mojo there for me. And there's the reflection, the actions that go with that. And that's where if you come back to the channel, the shorts are great prompts. And I publish 6 to 7 of them a week, sometimes 5. And they're great to grab and watch and bring your journal and what are you prompted to think about and how does that help you in living your legacy life? And then the longs, I'm going to get back into it, but I'll probably lean more into some lives and interactive. I'm not sure I'm going to quite go podcasting. I'm not sure that I'm just going to run off on different topics. They'll probably the side of the desk style and that interactive and what can you do and answering questions. And that's why I'm going to ask you, if you have questions about anything to do with legacy, drop them down below. We can learn together. It'll give me an opportunity to figure out what it is that you might be looking for, and I might be of assistance. But also, I get to learn from you about the question, because the question is an issue looking for an answer. That's a great way in which to live your legacy. I would encourage you, listen to that again and apply that to what you're wanting to do or are doing at this point in time. Wonderful to hear from you. Again, comments down below are great. Subscribe. That would be wonderful.